when people would visit me, when I was suffering from a gout attack, I would be immobile and, not pleasant, when you're, it's not pleasant now, but when you're a young guy and a young kid and you want to be socially acceptable and socially active, it was all the more devastating.
Hi, my name is Steve Clisby, and welcome to The Gout Show, a new podcast that's all about dealing with gout. If you don't know much about gout, you may be wondering, what do they need a podcast for? Well, I was recently diagnosed with gout, and I'm realizing there's so much more I don't know about it. Gout is a pretty misunderstood disease. It has the reputation of being the king's disease or an old man's disease, which implies that you get it from overindulging in rich foods or in alcohol. But I'm learning more and more that this is not true. In fact, gout can affect anyone. And on this show, we'll see just how true that is by hearing from a mix of patients who've been living with gout for many years. We'll also be informed by expert doctors who treat gout. And hopefully, we'll all walk away with some tools and tips for managing our condition, preventing pain, and just feeling a whole lot better. What you'll hear today are real stories from real people. People that have had real experiences with gout. But remember, everyone's health is unique. No two stories are the same. If you or someone else you love has gout, go to www.thegoutshow.com, where you can get help for your situation. Last episode, we met Ashley, a woman in her mid-30s who was surprised to learn that she had gout because she was young, seemed pretty healthy, and didn't have any telltale symptoms of sharp, sudden pain in the big toe. On this episode, we'll hear a very different story from Ken, who was diagnosed with gout as a young man 50 years ago with his foot suddenly sore for no reason at all. Ken, tell us your story.
My name is Ken Lipshez. I just turned 68, and I live in Connecticut. Around the time I graduated high school, my friends and I were playing street hockey quite a bit. And one day I noticed that my right big toe was very painful. So I figured that it had happened while I was playing. But a couple days went by, and I was having trouble walking, putting my foot in a shoe, but I figured it was all injury related. So it came and went, and then it happened again. The other symptoms were very red, shiny skin, which I had never seen anything like that before. Very red, where if you touched it, it would turn white, and then it would get red real quick again, and very shiny and slick. Changed the whole texture of my skin where the attack occurred, in the big toe. Couldn't get around. I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. And I felt I had to go to the doctor to get to the bottom of it, because after it happened a couple of times, I knew it wasn't an injury anymore. And I went to the doctor, and they diagnosed high uric acid and gout at 18 years old. I have reason to believe that a lot of the problems I've had with gout are hereditary because of the way gout has affected my family. My father was diagnosed with gout after I was. My son has had a few problems, and my sister has had a few attacks, so it goes deep in my family.
Next up is a message from our sponsor, but stay with us, because after the break, we'll be coming back to hear from Dr. Fields on the connection of your family history and gout.
The Gout Show is sponsored by Horizon Therapeutics. Horizon is focused on researching, developing, and commercializing medicines that address critical needs for people impacted by rare and rheumatic diseases. Have you ever had a sudden pain and wondered what it might be? It could be gout. Nearly 9 million Americans have gout, which means you or someone you know has it. Visit thegoutshow.com to learn more about gout and to take our quick quiz to find out if you've got uncontrolled gout, as well as to find resources on gout and other related diseases. Visit thegoutshow.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Gout Show. I'm Steve. Last episode, we learned that gout is a condition where your body has too much uric acid, which is a normal waste product, and it starts accumulating in your joints, causing inflammation, pain, and swelling. When I was first diagnosed with this disease, I don't think I fully appreciated the hereditary aspects of it. And hearing Ken's story has made me start to question my own family history and genetics. After learning I had gout, I immediately wanted to blame it on my diet. I'm a healthy eater, but I'm a pescatarian, which means I eat a lot of fish. I heard shellfish as well as foods like red meat, sugar-sweetened beverages, and alcohol can trigger gout. But I started to think that's not really the whole story. And the reason being, I don't do any of those things.
There are things that make people more likely to get gout, and certainly to get it earlier than they might have gotten it otherwise. And that includes being overweight, that includes taking medications like certain kind of water pills that can raise the uric acid level, or having a lot of alcohol, or some of the other foods that we associate with gout, such as red meat or shellfish. And those people are more likely to get their gout sooner. But it's important for people to know that anyone can get gout if they're genetically predisposed, even if they're don't have any of those typical features. Genes and family history are critical with gout. Many people may not remember or have heard about a particular family member having gout. It might have been a generation or two behind, or a family member that they don't know. But I would say that most of the patients I see with gout do have somebody in the family with gout.
Right. So what Dr. Fields was saying was true. In my family, I'm pretty sure I heard that word gout around my auntie. My mom lived to be 103, so I don't know whether she had gout or not, but she was doing pretty good. I think it's important to acknowledge that your family history isn't necessarily your destiny. You can still do a lot to take care of your health, even if you may be prone to getting gout. Just listen to what Ken has to say about his son's encounter with gout as a young adult.
My son had an attack of gout when he was about 30, and he arbitrarily made changes in his life to offset the difficulties that gout can present, and he was very successful in keeping gout away, and he has not had another attack. My son is very he's very aware of of what's going on. Even when he was little, he was pretty aware of what was going on around him, and he knows that I suffered with the gout. He remembered. He probably was vivid to him as he'd see me limp around for a couple days and need his help to get from one place to another. It was in the back of his mind that someday he could suffer from this. And when he did, he was very strict about the changes that he made. I mean, he stopped eating red meat. He completely stopped drinking alcohol because he was scared, because his memory of me suffering from gout was something that affected him as a child. He's very on top of the situation, and he hasn't had any more attacks. He had one attack, and he relies on, he's a construction man, and he relies on his body to make a living. And that was weighing heavily upon him. And he took what I knew and he used it. And his problems have been few. It's real great to know that your son listens to you. It's great to know that your son was paying attention back when he was young. And it's a lesson for everybody. Be careful what you say and do when your child is young, because it's going to have an effect on him or her when he matures.
I really think this is such a good message for all of us to make sure you talk about your health issues with your family. We all need to know what we're going through so we can help each other, and A, we can help each other, and B, we can be smarter about managing our own health and looking for symptoms and whatnot. But I suppose for me, the question is, you don't want to be a complainer. So it seems I think that sometimes complaining about it then makes it more real. It brings it on. But sometimes you can't ignore the fact that you feel like crap. That's the way it is. It's like chronic pain is something that you kind of get used to, but I think it does affect your attitude and in ways that you don't even realize, because you're constantly in pain. So I have a lot of excruciating foot pain, and it never really started to bother me until until I started trying, to do long walks and things like that, and get shoes fitted. Now back on gout and family history. Dr. Fields says there's a lot you can do to lower your risk of gout if you have a family history of it.
Someone who would be considered at higher risk for gout, such as someone with a strong family history, there are things that they can do. One would be to try to make sure that their weight is as close to normal for them as possible. That will help to keep the uric acid down a little bit. You should make sure that your doctor knows about this family history because, for example, if they were treating high blood pressure in your case and they were thinking of using a water pill that might raise the uric acid, they might decide to use something different. The other issue is to think about your diet. Fortunately, the diet for gout is a healthy diet, so that if you do things like limiting red meat, shellfish, limiting high fructose corn syrup, like is in regularly sweetened soft drinks, and limiting alcohol, those are things that can keep your uric acid a little bit lower, and they're generally healthy anyway. So those are the kinds of things I would do if you knew that you were higher risk for gout.
So for anyone who has gout, we all know about the flare-ups and how they can be. I was really seriously surprised about the big toe issue, and that's the thing that my trainer alerted me to, and I think that was one of the reasons why he kind of knew what was going on, because I was complaining about my foot, but the fact that it was a bit swollen. So it comes and goes, and it's not always associated with my big toe. Sometimes just the joints in my toes hurt. But some of the things that I've learned here and some of the things that I'm hearing are a great help in, one, knowing that you're not alone and you're not suffering that alone. And it's also something that you can share with other people. And I think that's what this show is all about. So, bring it on. I don't want to keep getting these flare-ups, so I want to make sure that I and you are armed with the right information to help us thrive with this condition and stop having to go through these painful attacks. Last episode, we asked Ashley to share something she'd want anyone newly diagnosed with gout to know about dealing with it. So we posed the same question to Ken, and here's what he had to say.
You really can't blame yourself. You at some point, you're probably going to need some medical intervention. The uric acid is what's causing the pain. The uric acid causes pine needle-shaped molecules to float around in your bloodstream, and they get stuck in your joints, and that's what causes the pain. So, if that condition is made worse by alcohol and by seafood and by, whatever else, well, stay away from them to the best you can. I would say make sure you take your medicine. I've been taking a medication for 50 years that lowers my uric acid. And as the years went on, the attacks became more infrequent. It's really been a long time since I've had an attack of the gout.
A big message for people with gout is that this is a curable disease. If you stay on the medicine, you stay cured, but if you stop the medicine, the disease can come back. But it's great for people with gout to know that those very painful flares that they're having can stop, and they can basically go back to a normal life.
So thanks to Ken and to Dr. Fields for sharing their perspectives. Coming up on the next episode.
There had been a couple of times it was so bad, I sat there, my friend stopped me. I sat there with a paring knife, and I was tempted just to open up the joint of my toe to let out the pressure because my skin was so tight.
So thanks for listening to The Gout Show, and don't forget to subscribe and give us a rating. We look forward to sharing more with you in the next episode.